Hello, I'm Michael, and this is Tarot by the Tree. This is a series we've been at for a little while now, discussing the minor arcana, or the pips as they're sometimes called. We're doing this suit by suit, and we're into the suit of wands or staves now. And in fact, we're just finishing them up. As we've noticed, the cards 1 to 10 fall on the Tree of Life on the Sephra, numbered 1 to 10. So that's pretty easy. When we get to the royal family, the kings participate at the very top of Keter. The queens participate in the long-lasting beauty of Tiferet. The knights are the summoners of Yesod, and the pages live in our world of Malkuth. And it's just a little bit of a review. Yesterday we discussed the Queen of Staffs. The sign of the staffs is normally the salamander, which, like the staff itself, is symbolic of fire. The queen introduces the sunflower, which is a sign of her strength, and the queen also introduces the symbolism of lions and cats into her throne and at the forefront of her card. The king continues that in the backdrop of his throne, and we'll look at that in a moment. The King of Staffs. The staves represent plans or your enterprise. Specifically, bringing your plans into action. We'd like to move from the state of just ideas into some form of practicing these ideas and having them materialize. The first thing, and we'll review this several times throughout this lesson, is that the kings represent extraordinary people. These are not pretenders. These are not like politicians. Consider a king 1 in 500 people, maybe more, a person who doesn't even come every generation. This is a person that unites and binds, and he is strong, powerful, and honorable in every way. Let's take a description of the King of Staffs. He sits on a throne, and the throne is on a stone pad like the Queen of Staffs. The backdrop of the throne shows salamanders, which are the sign of fire, and are indeed in all of the royal family of the staffs, except for the queen. The queen does not have that. And symbolically, she is externally the most controlled and mild of this family. This is a sign of staffs. It is the sign of fire. These are passionate people who express their emotions. You'll notice that the throne is not facing, it's facing full on. It's turned to the side, and the side it's turned to is the side of severity. This is a king. This is a fiery king. This is the mightiest of all people, and the ability to be severe or restrictive goes with the territory. That's part of his duty. There's a salamander, a living salamander at his feet, just like there was a living cat at the feet of the Queen of Staffs. This is a symbol of fire, and there is no attempt to cover that up or to make it less noticeable. This is the King of Staffs. Fire is his element, and it is what he represents. As with all the kings, and it may seem surprising, they tend not to wear armor. In fact, they don't wear armor. And the idea for this particular king is that it's his plans that would be attacked, not him directly. But in a broader sense, no one attacks a king. They're that superior. I'll just read Wait, and we'll just see what he says about the King of Wands. The physical and emotional nature to which this card is attributed is dark, ardent, lithe, animated, impassioned, and noble. The king uplifts a flowering wand and wears, like his three correspondences in the remaining suits, what is called a cap of maintenance beneath his crown. He connects with the symbol of the lion, which is emblazoned on the back of his throne. That was fairly straightforward. Take a look at the place on the tree. And we did mention the place of all the kings is at the very top of the tree, that Keter. That's where everything is possible, but nothing is materialized. Think of it like before the Big Bang happened. Everything is there, but nobody knows where it is. It's just ideas and potential. And that's where the kings live. But of course, the kings are in our world now. So their main job is to take the ideas and the organization that they have and materialize it. They are master planners, and the King of Staves is the master planner of them all. When we mention the place on the tree, we always have to be aware that the places on the tree have two sides, like sides of a coin. It's the same coin. There's no difference in meaning, but there are two sides to it. On one side of the coin, we have the emperor. On the other side of the coin, we have the devil. This is a very important lesson in Kabbalah. If, no matter who you are, if the emperor is faced with adoration for too long a time, it infects us as a species. We can't help it. We can only be highly admired for so long before it starts to enter into our realization that maybe they're right. Maybe we are that special. With kings, there is a tendency over time for them to get inflated egos, and we'll look at that a little more later. Human nature is human nature, and a king is a wonderful example of how human nature can be near perfect, but human nature is human nature. And just like if you freeze water, it turns to ice. If you give a human being admiration for too long, the workings of their emotions and minds start to change, and they become bedeviled, which means they thrive on adulation, and they start getting unrealistic beliefs about what their own potential and limits are. Still trying to get a handle on what kings were in these ancient times of archetypical people. Today we are used to authority in many forms, and it is not unusual to feel at times that that authority lacks honor and admiration. Doesn't matter who it is, members of an army or a government, a political force, or a police. We are used to people not living up to their position, and we see that all the times. We see it in government officials, we see it in gurus of movement, where over time the leader is discovered not to be emulating the things that he advocates. The point of this is that kings are not phonies, fakes, or pretenders. These are great people, and if they weren't here, there's no one to take their place. They wouldn't have called up the king in waiting or something. We would enter into a period of minor battles, back to the warlords again. A king unites. Back in the days before we had such communication, the measure of a person used to be their deed. So if you want to know what this new person, what is Jane really like? They would tell you, well, Jane has done this, she's done that, she's good at this, and she's remembered for that. Jane's deeds, her actions, become her essence. Cinema, theater, and internet now make a new type of social royalty based on who they seem to be. That didn't used to be the case back in the olden days. You couldn't seem to be somebody else. You could masquerade, but it would be obvious it was a masquerade. You were measured by your deeds, not by your appearance or affectations. Today, it is often more important to seem great rather than be great. There's a trait amongst men, and I'm not sure, maybe I should say amongst masculine tendencies, and I'm sure it's evident in females as well as males, but it's especially evolved in males, I think, because they had to get together for a short time to hunt or build or something like that. And in my own experience, there's often not a lot of discussion for who's going to be the boss or leader when you have a bunch of men together. There's often a realization who as to who would be best, and that secondary realization that let's just get on with it and not waste any more time. Hunting, tracking, building, designing, defense, planning, all of these things where they had to take a leader. Now, this is not a substitute for the king. This is just an acknowledgement that very often when males get together, there is an acknowledgement of who would be best at something, and there's very little bickering and fighting. There seems to be a recognition and an effort to get on with the job. As we mentioned, there used to be a collection of warlords, clans, family groups, all competing. The appearance of a real king can align all tribes into one kingdom. And this was amazing. And this is, again, the measure of a king. We don't see that today in politicians elected for a short time. And we certainly don't see it in royalty because royalty is no longer chosen to find that 1 in 500 person and then train them from birth. And yeah, I'll read this.
Can you expand on that royalty part about today, that like the blue bloods, all that kind of?
Yep, yeah, we're going to just get into I just Josh gave me something. We were talking about the Queen yesterday, and I should have done this at the beginning, but the point of the study of the Queen is not a lesser king. She's not a king in waiting. She is not just decoration. A queen provides things that a king cannot. A king gathers the people, the queen evolves these people. This is a quote that, where did you find it? AI? No,
I see.
I'm doing yours now on queens.
Oh, that was Dr. Michael Lightman.
Okay, it's interesting. How does a wise and good-hearted queen rule? The queen, as a mother would, is in complete control. She regards her people as equally worthy, regardless of their material and physical circumstances. Respecting no worldly hierarchies, she rules based on deep understanding of justice with the well-being of everybody as her primary goal. Her love creates optimal paths, connections, and spaces to advance the people. They become their best under her control. By being in control, she serves. By serving, she's in control. So we're just talking about the role of queens and women, and that's the role of queens. And I'm repeating myself, but they are not a shadow of kings. They're two different people, and they share power equally. There is no a queen has no less power than a king. But we're talking now about the tendency of people to recognize a great figure, a great man, and how bickering warlords, if a truly great king comes along, they will unite behind him. And I'm not sure what this is. It's a kind of a recognition of greatness. It's a great clarity of sight for these people to put down their petty feuds in arms to follow somebody. And I think it's sort of embodied in part of the poem, The Ballad of East and West by Rudyard Kipling. He says, O East is East and West is West, and never the twain shall meet, till earth and sky stand presently at God's great judgment seat. But there is neither East nor West, border nor breed nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth. And there's a whole poetic story about this, that when two great men did come together, one did not destroy the other. He said, no, no, you're too amazing to destroy. Take my horse and ride away. Okay. There is the problem with the king and devil connection, that the king, for all the greatness, will have a tendency to become ego inflated over time with the clamoring of the adoring masses. When that happens, this is sort of what halted the process of finding these very rare and amazing people, because back in the mists of history, and we've seen this happen many, many times in more recent history, a king who gathered the warlords together, turned a bunch of villages into a Camelot, united the people, protected his realm. That king can still, over time, start to believe what people say about him. And some kings did. And some kings eventually said, you know, I am so good. I agree with all my subjects. I am so good. I'm probably not human. I'm probably divine. In fact, yeah, I'm a god. As soon as that happened, we have a big problem. We can no longer select from the best. We have this myth that ichor, or divine blood, runs through the king. And of course, his children will also have a little bit of that divine blood. And that became very important to people. If you were related by blood to the king, you didn't have to do anything to gain respect. It was automatically given, like you were a superpowered individual, even if you had below average abilities. Now, future kings are no longer rare or superb people, but they become the sons of kings. And also, maybe not even his son, because we know that tracing by father link isn't always accurate, because you can never guarantee that he was the source. It might have been his son. Of course, it might have been a weak or a sick son. And through this kind of what ended up as almost a form of inbreeding, we ended up with diseases like hemophilia and things like that, just being very common, because the kings and queens often shared ancestries all across many countries and lands. Okay, the kings earned respect. They were popular because of their greatness. And that was, no one argued that, no one doubted that. Why don't we turn to some of the questions?
The king has a salamander at his feet, and the queen has a black cat. What is the difference in their meanings?
The king is a salamander, sign of fire, like his staff. He is fiery. He makes no apologies, and he takes no efforts to prevent that. The queen sign of the cat suggests that she has taken control of this fiery nature, and in public or private, she can radiate a calmness that might be surprising within the suit of staffs. She has a cat, but the cat is a reminder that although this is a domesticated animal and a house pet, we have all seen what happens when a cat 100% puts itself into an angry, desperate fight. And it can be a wicked thing. And that's the sign. The queen appears calm, but she has her full fiery instinct and capability still at hand. The king makes no efforts to hide his emotional, passionate, and fiery nature.
The suit symbol appears to be the fire sign of salamanders. What do the lions indicate?
The lions seem to be a symbol of the highest rank, and only the king and the queen, in this case, have the lion symbol. And we see it on the flags and heralds of many royal families today.
Why doesn't he look straight ahead like the queen?
This is the king, and he's the king of plans, and his nature is fiery and passionate. And none of this is bravado or threat or warning. This is a man of action, and he looks to the side of severity. If pushed, if threatened, if forced, this is a person capable of great severity of action. This is a mighty person. This is a warrior, and this is as high a power as you're going to find.
What kind of crown is he wearing?
It's symbolic of fire. It's like tendrils of flame are just coming right out of his head at all times. And this is emblazoned. It's part of his crown. It is just a hint into the nature of his personality.
Why don't the kings wear armor?
Um, the King of Wands has no need of armor because he's putting forward plans, and it's the plans that will be attacked, not him. None of the kings wear armor. There's perhaps a suggestion of armored footwear, and we'll look at that later, but none of the kings wear armor. Uh, I would like to think it's because of two reasons. One, the kings are revered, loved, and admired. No one wants to attack them. If it was a full-fledged battle, likely he would be in armor and he would have all kinds of soldiers in front of him. The other reason is that the king is a superior person. He doesn't need armor. Even an armored soldier would not be able to successfully attack a king. Again, as we've mentioned all through this, a king doesn't just hold a high office. He is the highest officer, and that makes a big difference. And we don't see that today.
And he would probably almost emanate this character.
I think so. I think these great people do emanate something, and we perceive it. And we don't see it much anymore because we just don't have access to these great people anymore. It's all clouded up with reputation and hype, I think.
Is the King of Staffs a violent person?
Yes, but he's not cruel. And what I mean by yes is he is fully capable of violence. This is not a person who would be really upset about being forced into an aggressive arena. He's perfectly at home there. He is the master of that arena, and so if an adversary ever wants to go there, he is perfectly happy to go there. Yeah.
How is his personality different from the Queen's?
The queen can be a lady anytime she wants. The king might have trouble being a gentleman anytime that he wants. The queen has great control. And if she doesn't need that control, she can relinquish it, and she can be a savage person, but she doesn't have to be. The king is not as subtle. The king is a fiery, passionate personality, and he makes no effort to change that. It works for him.
Do the four kings dislike each other?
No, they're each s- symbolic of a different purpose. Each of the four kings has a very different um, aspect that they're trying to promote. On top of that, as Jocelyn mentioned, these people emanate, I was going to say charismatic aura, but that doesn't quite say it. With the king, you realize you are in the presence of greatness. And the four kings, just like the poem we just read about Kipling, they would recognize that in each other, and there would be no difference of race or creed or anything. They would be like brothers in greatness if they met.
So great respect for.
Absolutely, yeah.
What is the greatest power of the King of Staffs?
King of Staffs is a planner, and that's no small thing. Anybody can come up with an idea, anybody can come up with a plan, but to be a good planner means that your plan does not fall apart, or it doesn't just work temporarily with terrible repercussions later. The King of Staves is a master planner. It's almost like he can almost see the future. He can anticipate what will go wrong. And he is very aware of social trends and of what will go right.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. When you meet somebody like the King of Plans,
Staffs.
put aside, yeah, King of Staffs, put aside your own ego. Listen to him and trust him. There are still great people in this world, and the kings are a symbol of these great people. They still exist. They're just hard to find, and very often people who aren't great have access to ways to appear great. And that's the end of the staffs. I think we'll move on now to the cups, and we'll deal with what happiness is. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.